audience, and hi, Timo Bernhard. Thank you for coming back to Staying at Home. Last week we talked and recorded the first attempt for this episode, but unfortunately I messed the tech up, and I'm super grateful that we get to do this again. How are you doing?
So first of all, thank you very much for re-inviting me. We have our second session, our second race. If we say the first one was a free practice, so now we're gonna go into qualifying and gonna perform now. I'm fine so far. I mean, given the circumstances, I'm sure like everybody feels, but I'm healthy and I'm spending a lot of time with the family, which is a good thing, and for sure keep a lot of things still to do and keeps me busy.
For everyone that doesn't know who Timo Bernhard is, he is one of the most impactful drivers of our age. He not only has beaten Le Mans, correct me if I'm wrong, 3 times as an overall winner?
No, in fact, 2 times overall, but 1 time class win. And the class win I'm quite proud of because it was my very first attempt in Le Mans. So that's why 3 victories is correct.
Awesome. There you go. And yeah, now this gentleman not only has won Le Mans, he also has beaten the Nürburgring track record, which we will be spending some time talk about later. And with a young age of 38, you retired. How does someone retire at that age? And are you now just sitting at home, staying at home, or what does your life look like right now?
No, for sure. Motorsport still has a pretty big impact in my life, and it's something which I could not stop. It's just really part of my life because even as a young boy, I went to races to watch my father driving. I was very, very small, could just walk. So, and so over the years, I had just a wonderful time building up, like trying to take each letter at a time, each step at a time, and had a wonderful 20 years as a Porsche factory driver. In the end, I had the feeling that I have accomplished all the goals I had. I mean, there was a small goal left, to be honest, was winning the 24 hours of Spa overall, which in fact we tried the last 2 times with my own team, with Porsche support, and for whatever reason it didn't work out. I mean, you also need a little bit of luck with it. But I came to the conclusion that it was time for the next step. Just having felt that having accomplished all the big goals, and so now my life is not without motorsport, not at all. I have basically 2 main jobs, which is first of all being still linked very much to the brand Porsche. Being one of very few Porsche Brand Ambassadors, which I'm very, very proud of. Was a dream job for me, like after stopping the active career. And the second main job is running my own team, Team 75 Bernhard, where we have cars in ADAC GT Masters, in GT4 Germany, Porsche Sports Cup Germany, the DMV GT Challenge. So, and also a go-kart team. So we have many different tasks. So this team is with 10 fully employed people. So it's building up, and that's is a task of mine to make this to build this team up step by step, and also try to be successful and also helping like young drivers coming up. So these are the 2 main jobs I have, and then on the side, for sure, we'll do a little bit of driving myself with rallies or maybe one or the other smaller event just for myself. But it's more like driving, enjoying for pleasure, and just for myself, just to because I enjoy so much driving cars on the limit.
Retiring sounds really, really busy.
Well, yes, I said to my family that after the LMP1 program stopped in 2017, I said, yes, now we'll have more time at home and it will be more relaxed. And I think it was the opposite. I think I was busier than ever in 2018, especially, but also last year. So I cannot make the same promise again. It's just different because like during the LMP1 times, I had one goal, I had one program, and I was just completely linked to that and completely, sucked in and always had my head around this these things and trying to be better, trying to improve. And now it's just like a little bit different. It's more jobs, and it's a bit project here and there. So you have to really fine tune your time, that you're also efficient, and that you're not getting lost with all the different puzzles. So it's definitely different. Also the business side of it. So I learned a lot over the last 7-8 years where we built up the team. So I see the motorsport from the other side as well, not just from the cockpit view, also from running the business, employing people, dealing with the people, motivating them, or try to, if something doesn't work out, like also to change the arrangement. So it's makes me more, I think for sure, I grew more of a grown up. It's hard to, it's maybe wrong to say, but it's not just only me, myself, and the car, and maybe the mechanics around. It's just a bigger view of motorsport, which I enjoy a lot, but it's also more complex than I thought when I look back at the age of 18 when I signed as a Porsche Junior.
Yeah, you said earlier that you were looking forward to become a Porsche Brand Ambassador for quite some time, and this is, after being an LMP1 driver, a dream job. What does a Porsche Brand Ambassador do, or what? Then the question connected to that is, what does Porsche mean for you?
First of all, being a Porsche factory driver or like a professional racing driver, that's the dream job number one. It's for me, that's no doubt about it. But you also have to see, you always have like a prime time where everything meets together, like the speed, the focus, also the amount of risk you want to take as a driver. Yeah, also the concentration, and also, just everything comes together, like the experience. And there's like a prime time, I think, for every driver. It's hard to put like an age tag on it, but for me it was certainly in the 30s where I felt like especially really in the prime time of the LMP1 era, where I felt like I was really on top of my own personal performance. And that's where and then when you feel that, I don't say that this goes away, but for sure everybody changes over time a little bit. And then I always wanted to be, remembered, or, like being on top of things, and not just being around for the name. So that's why I say that number one is being an active racing driver. But if you have, if you move things, if you change, if you do the next step, then the Porsche Brand Ambassador was really a dream job for me. And here a role model is definitely Röhrl, because he started this ambassador role, which I'm slipping in now, or which I'm, starting. I think it was in 1993 when he joined Porsche in this role, and he really, put his mark in this in this role. So when I look at him, that's because I met him many times at these kind of events, and when he was presenting cars, or introducing the cars to journalists, or just like help also with one or two hints to the development of the car. So it's just a multiple role. And when I look how he dealt with these things, it became more and more clear that this is something at one stage it's very interesting for me to do. And now I'm in this role, just like growing into it, and it's really what made it so attractive for me to do that step as well.
Yeah. Let's circle back to your times as active race driver. What is the advice you wish you knew, the experience you wish you had before you started to focusing on your professional racing career?
Looking back now, I think with the resources we had early on, we couldn't have done it much better, to be honest. I think that was really, really close to the optimum. With the resources, like the fundings we had from the family. It's always the hardest part in motorsport, because you always have to, you need a little bit of a startup money, almost like a company. You need somebody to help boosting it. And we had it. Us was mainly from our own family. And since my father was still is very, a very good technician, very talented at building cars, or even just maintaining and running the cars on track. So that was my major help in order to become a professional racing driver. So I think with these resources, coming back to this, we could have not done it much better. But I think in the beginning, for sure, you're a bit naive as well. I mean, when you're a teenager, I always knew for whatever reason that this is gonna work out. I'm gonna be a racing driver, and whatever racing's here, I don't know, or but you're a little bit naive because I knew it's gonna happen, but I didn't know the path, and I didn't know also when there was like some setbacks, I was not giving up. I was like, okay, yes, it's this trust and this positive energy. And that's what you need, if you have doubts early on, like, am I good enough? Or what's going to happen next? Then you're never going to make it. And I had this, I think early on, I think this nice mixture of, okay, it's going to work out. And even if you look in your Formula 4 days, when you look from race to race and okay, if you bend 2 wheels, I mean, we can maybe replace one because we have money for that. But if you knock off 2 corners in an accident, I was not sure if you can come back and finish the season. So if this comes, if this affects you heavily, then it's the wrong job, and then that it's not going to work out. So I think this was positive on one side, but on the other side, for sure, if you had more from the outside, if you had really like more professional help, like maybe from a former professional racing driver, or just if I had a little bit more connections, then we could have sped up things, or maybe maybe things could have worked out differently. But I think I'm very, very happy with how things worked, so I don't want to complain.
Yeah. What is interesting to see is that basically you and maybe the generation after you, let's say people like Niki Team, for instance, that when you all started, there was no such thing as social media and probably not as many racing consultants, racing schools. Do you think in today's service-oriented environment, it is easier to become a good racing driver, or is it the quality of the human being and the personal skills what makes a great racing driver?
Well, that's a good question. I think with starting up with the lack of this information from outside, whether on the business side nor on the or really the driving technique, and you have to train and food and these things side of it, I think I had to accustom more myself and maybe deal with the things more myself. And in the end, I think the result is that I learned more just from just thinking about things, I was very much focusing on drivers which I admired. I think that helped a lot, that I was reading books and from all sorts of racing drivers, like from Hans Hermann, like the completely different generation than myself, like running in the 50s in the Silver Arrows in Formula 1, and from Stefan Bellof, one of my idols, or from Walter Röhrl. So I was just trying to self-learn a lot, as much as possible. Yep. And especially I think in driving technique, it helped me a lot because I was watching a lot on track. I mean, go-karts or Formula Ford, Formula Renaults, Porsche Carrera Cups. And this was also the time before data recording, or just data recording just really started in a few championships. And just at the end of my karting time, we started a bit with data recording, but in Formula racing in the beginning I didn't have, and in Carrera Cup as well. So it was a little bit old school, like really watching from the outside. And I think if you compare to Niki, he's a bit younger than me, but it's also this kind of I think it's also this kind of mentality to start. I think with the lack of possibilities, you also try to get the same goal out of it, and maybe you're a bit more forced to do it by yourself, which in the end takes longer, but maybe for your personality and for your own knowledge, it's no harm, I think.
What do you think makes a good racing driver?
It's several things. I think yes, speed is a big component, but at a certain level, everybody is quick and everybody has the speed. So I just take that as a given, because if you don't have the speed, you never come to a certain level. It's given that everybody has certain kind of speed, or enough speed to be there. The higher you come, you need like qualities definitely to be, I think, positive. This sounds very general now, but I think you need to have this positive energy that things will work out, and that you're not getting frustrated very quickly, because motorsport is complex. Yeah. And if you're getting always upset by somebody blocking you in free practice where it doesn't count, that doesn't help. Or if you I don't know, just in a bad mood all the time, this doesn't help either. So I think you need positive energy. You need teamwork. I think is very underrated, but to help that the team feels that you're pulling the same side, and you also need to have an ability to pull the team around you, like they feel that they can trust you, like on development of the cars, that you get also these major tests. That's important, I think. And then for sure, a bit of everybody also has to look for himself, that you need to have this to be tough in a way. As, I don't know, if things turn out to be not working at the time, that you still go through this time and not give up. I think this, in a way, you have to be tough. And I think what's also maybe not on the radar so much, like the mental capacity, is like driving. And you see that a lot of time when you drive, driving a race car on the limit, and then you hear like people speaking on the radio, you see who is completely on the limit, and who has still capacity, like continue driving on the limit in certain ways, and still be able to speak and communicate and maybe do other things. So I think the top level guys, you see, I think they have also this kind of extra capacity to deal with things on the side.
And that's such a beautiful anecdote translating to our time right now in April of 2020, that, my takeaway from what you just said is that when you stay focused and you stay positive and you don't let outside influences get to you emotionally so much, that you actually can achieve much more and can tackle way bigger challenges. To switch gears up a little bit, I would like to talk with you about my favorite race car, or one of many favorite race cars, the Porsche 919 Hybrid. How was it for you to be part of that project, and why was this car so important for Porsche?
Well, that was a lifetime job. I think something that I will always remember and always be stored in my memory on the top shelf, probably on positive things. It was a great call already to be a part of this program, and from really A to Z. Was together with Romain Dumas, I have to say, who was the first one to be on the mock-up chassis, and then really be starting from the beginning, where there was just a handful of people starting the program in 2011, so way ahead before we hit the road the first time. So like almost 2 years ahead of time, starting from scratch, and being involved in this program from the very first scratch, mock-up chassis, and et cetera, until the last race lap of Bahrain. I mean, I think very few drivers can say that they had this lifetime program where they were connected to. So I'm very grateful of that. And then if you look at the results we had in the end, all we can say all the way through, it's just remarkable. And it's also when I felt like there's nothing which can top that, or even like come close to that. And that was in my prime time. So it's really, there was the top of things. And I was really connected to this program all the way throughout, with all the different layers and the different status we had. So yeah, I mean, and it feels like everything I did before was kind of a warm up to be on top of things exactly when I needed to be in this era. The way of like the speed, like the experience, also the experience and the majority of car development. Like being also like grown up enough for being in a team player role, which was not hard for me, but also to you're not sharing, you're sharing the car, you're not alone by yourself in the car, so you need also to have this component, because your car can only be successful when everybody feels like at home, and everybody feels like trusted and can extract his abilities. So I always wanted to create on the car like this kind of atmosphere. And if there were problems, for sure, you speak about it, and you also, at certain points, you have to come to a compromise. So not to keep everybody happy, but to keep everybody like feeling positive, being wanted here, and being feeling that everybody contributes his part for making the car and the project successful. And I think that it was also a good key why the team and was performing so well. So that's definitely, I mean, summing up, I could talk for another hour on that program.
Please
because there
do.
were so many layers and so many emotions when we started, and and after very being like emotional, or being like pumped up and being positive, and then we had the first time with the track, we had a lot of problems and issues, and then when this first, I wouldn't say positive feeling, but when this first honeymoon was over, and you were like, okay, you're facing reality. Maybe it doesn't work so quickly as you thought, and you were seconds away from comparable lap times that happened before that the competition was running. So it was just so many different layers, and we still fighting back, and so in car development is a very complex area, and I always enjoyed that a lot, to be honest, to help contributing. And and even though the technology was or the highest level you can imagine, with all the hybrid technology and the driver's under microscope, so you had to think twice what you say. It has to be accurate, otherwise you lose the trust from the engineers. But even though you have this much technology and possibilities on the car, you still needed, or the team still needed the driver input. So that's what I really enjoyed. Also, the arguing sometimes on a positive way, like when they see something on the data, but okay, you feel something different, and you still come to the conclusion that the car actually is driven by a human being. So so listen to the driver. So I mean, this is like to have these healthy conversations, and also like fighting for a thing that is right, and you're sure about it. Maybe it's not 100% visible in the data. So this takes also time, and this takes trust, and it's not a 5-minute job. It's hard work. It's actually where you lay the ground to all the success that comes later. And it's not by one individual. It's I don't want to let it sound like general or being like romantic. It's really like the job of every department, every individual there to fight for the same goal. And there were sometimes we were not agreeing, but you always come to a conclusion which brought the program forward, and that's what I admired from this time.
What was the goal once the program started and the decision was made, hey, we're going to make a Le Mans prototype to compete against Audi and Toyota, which, have been at that time already at such a high level? Was it the goal that you show up as Porsche and completely dominate the class, or was it, we try to have our fair chance, looking at also, Audi's win series they had for so many years?
Well, Audi was the benchmark clearly, but also Toyota was very strong, and they got stronger and stronger because they also just started 2 years earlier before we joined. But Audi was definitely the benchmark with all the Le Mans victories, and they had quite a run and quite an era. And like a couple of years before, I was running for Audi. I was on loan from Porsche to Audi and to support their Le Mans program, and we won in 2010. The car was on, so I knew how the team worked, and I knew how strong they are, and I knew the mentality of Audi. And so the goal back then at Porsche was not spoken out to dominate, not at all, because we had a lot of respect of the task. It was the 17th Le Mans victory. That was the big goal, and that's why the departments and also in the workshop there were these. Every single Le Mans winning poster of Porsche was on exhibition, just to remember and to remind the team of the goal, but also to remind of the responsibility we have, because Porsche and Le Mans, they go well together, and it's a success story all the way through. So we knew that we have a lot of possibilities and all the support from Porsche, also inside the company from the workers and from the employees. But we also knew that we have a high responsibility because there was no option to fail. And I mean, with fail, it's like, okay, the car doesn't make the start, or just, blows up all the time or whatever, and it's not quick enough or whatever. So we just knew we need to make this Le Mans victory happen, And it was quite, I remember at the time, like going to the first Le Mans, I think there was maybe like 2 events where I said we felt the pressure. We felt like, okay, now we're on a microscope. This was the first time we hit officially the track in 2014, Paul Ricard on the WC Prologue. And we had a test before, a couple of days before, also in Paul Ricard, and we had some few technical issues. And so for sure we were nervous, and we felt the pressure, like now being under media surveillance on the prologue. And we started the prologue, and we had I think even we had the quickest time. I think it was Brendan Hartley in our car who did then in the end, like on a quali sim, did the quickest time of the prologue. I mean, certainly on one of the days. And we had flawless, not a single problem, and everybody was really, really impressed from outside. And we were like, okay, that felt good, but for sure everybody was nervous beforehand. And so it was a positive turnout. And the second time, I felt the pressure, and I felt that the team felt the pressure, was 2014, the first Le Mans, because it was, I mean, a crowd I've never seen in Le Mans before. It was like, I mean, we even had a hard time getting on time to the warm up on race day, because it was like all the roads were jammed. So it was it was quite a challenge to be there on time. And also, everybody wanted to see how Porsche does. So it was and I think the team did a very positive approach. They try not to get carried away, and they try to focus on their own performance. And also we tried to look at our own performance, and we're not thinking on results. We were thinking on, okay, now with the given circumstances, with the car that is in this status right now, we try to get the best out of it, and whatever happened, we learn from it, and then we come back. And so this was the right approach. And after I'd say a positive quali, we were like, it was changing weather conditions. I was taking the race start in the car 20 in our car. So different, I remember there was a big weather was changing, and some cars crashed, and different tire strategies. And we went on inters, and we didn't go on full wets. We went on inters, and then we went on full wets after. And I was leading after, I think, 1.5 hours. So so our car was leading. So after 16 years, Porsche was leading in his first attempt back in the big class. So these are special moments which you can't, which are, you're happy to describe, but it's just like, that's very emotional, and it's like the positive memories that you had. For sure, the race unfortunately didn't end the way we wanted. We were fighting for victory. We were leading until 2 hours to go. Then with a blown engine, but it was a positive, still a drama race, but it was a positive comeback still for us, and for and that's the media echo we received as well. And then the next time there was pressure for sure was in 2015 in Le Mans, but there the car was on a completely different level. We had the speed, we had the experience from the year before, that what we learned about, and were stronger, and we had a double victory, and then that's where we ticked the box of this program, and everything after was a big plus.
This is really fascinating to get an insight into this mysterious world of LMP1 prototypes. Talking about Le Mans, how is it to blast down the long straight in Le Mans at the night, passing so many cars of multiple classes? As an audience member, to me personally, it's always it looks very magical in a way. I think people that don't watch and follow racing, they might think this is weird, but there's something really special about racing in the nighttime, where everything slows down usually, but these cars keep going faster when the air gets a little bit colder, and the field is stretched further out from each other. But I can imagine being in a car doing north of 340 kilometers per hour. how is that for you? Like with so many different cars and not knowing if the car ahead of you sees that you are approaching with a tremendous faster speed than themselves. How's that feeling?
I mean, first of all, Le Mans is unique for that. It's one of the last, or probably the last racetrack, which is a combination of a normal road and a closed racetrack. And the large part is like an open, normal standard road with all the downsides as well, which means like the asphalt in some places is not completely flat. You know, you have some grooves from everyday trucks and trailers which pass this road. Still, the ACO does a very good job of repaving from time to time, but there's a different element to it which you don't have compared to a closed racetrack. So in some places it's even more tricky. Driving at night is a unique thing. I think driving on a daytime, you have I can't speak for myself. I have different reference points on the way I drive, or which I refer to, like when I push the limit. And at night you have this vision part of it is limited, so you need to change a bit your reference points. In a simple way, maybe to speak, maybe drive a bit more with the feeling, maybe a bit more with your bottom and a bit more with other references you have or knowledge which you have from the day. But I'm always the track is a bit quicker, yes, because it's cooler temp normally, and you can maybe run a softer tire, and maybe there's a bit more grip then. But still, I mean, the limitations you have from the night, from a lack of vision, is not trivial. But still, I'm always surprised that we can run the same lap times than during day, or almost the same lap time. So that's that sees how on what kind of level it is. Driving like down the long straight at that speed is not really the biggest challenge, because these cars have a ton of downforce, which means like the car is really pushed down to on the floor, and it's like always planted. So I would almost say like nearly everybody can drive it, because the car really goes straight, except on some places where you have these grooves. For sure, the car will move a little bit. Yeah, these places you have to know, but like all the braking zones, like these are the hard parts. That's why I speak about reference points, like to hit the right braking marks, like the turning points. These are the hard parts and the challenging parts in the night, and also then the traffic, because like when you are the upcoming traffic to like slower cars or GT cars, for them it's hard to see. And even though now with the very bright lights we had at the end, they don't know how far you are away. So for sure you see the GT car, but for them it's hard to judge. So sometimes they think that you're a lot closer than you actually are, and then they miss the entry point of the chicanes because they think you're already launching on the inside. And so it's sometimes there are like tricky moments because of that, and always this constant decisions, like, okay, can I go for the gap, or is it safe, or is it good, or no, I have to stay behind. I mean, this is even harder than during night. So in Le Mans, with the way the track is and the lack of reference points in some places, it's very, very challenging. So at night, like driving quick, yes, it's more difficult, but like being quick and being on the right side in traffic, this is even more trickier. So, but that's a challenge all the way throughout. And it's just,
even in daytime, accidents happen so quick. One of the ones that struck me the most when I saw it was the 2011 crash with Alan McNish and the Ferraris, which, before everything went down, it looked like a standard LMP cars overtakes the GT car, but it ended so quick, and such a massive impact, and carbon fiber was basically flying everywhere, and Alan got out well, which was the biggest surprise, because it didn't look at all like that. Was there a moment for you in your racing career when you had a crash where you didn't know what was going on, and the next thing you know, you crawled out of, or you walked away from a car that, from the outside was absolutely destroyed, and you yourself, had a moment where you're like, wow, racing actually is that dangerous? And what went through your mind in that moment?
But you know that when this crash with Alan in 2011, I was around there. So because he just
Really?
this was I was in the car one in the black Audi, was just behind because we just had a change of lead. This was 50 minutes into the race, and I was leading at the time, and then he just passed me out of the chicane because we didn't want to at that early stage of the race we didn't want to have a big fight. So all the three Audis were at the lead at that moment, and Alan came a bit quicker on the rear, and so I missed a bit the entry point of the chicane. So long story short, he passed me at the exit of the first Dunlop chicane, and then going down the hill, I was just behind him when he overtook the Ferrari, and they collided. So I was just the next car, and I saw him going off to the left. And I knew at that speed, I didn't see the impact because I was right behind, but I knew that at this angle he was shooting off to the side, that there was very little chance. I mean, I knew that it was a big hit. Well, it must have been a big hit, and all the carbon fiber stuff, came flying and at my windscreen, and I saw the parts flying over. And so the next time around we saw the car on the side. So yeah, I mean that was quite huge. And then later in the race, it was my car with Mike Rockenfeller in the wheel, which had a big impact with another GT Ferrari, with another GT car. I mean, the brand doesn't matter at that moment, but it was another car, another GT car that there was a big collision or misunderstanding. And then, so we had... So our car was was out of the race as well with a major huge accident, and I'm very happy that we're very lucky that both of the drivers, certainly Alan in his crash, and also then Mike in our car, were not majorly injured. So that was quite a I wouldn't say wake up call, but for sure you knew at the time that these LMP1s back then, they were very quick, and this was pre-hybrid era. But they were having a lack of visibility as well compared to then the LMP1s which followed. So this was one part of the issues, but also this we were alerted that the speed differences between the classes were quite big. So and this is on both ends. You cannot blame just one category or one side. It's really
absolutely
it's a living together, and I never wanted to be, because I started in GT. So I did many Le Mans in GT class before. So I'm not, just running in the big factory LMP1s and, always claim that we're on the right side. It's not like that, but it's a happy living together on track. And for sure there are misunderstandings where one or the other is maybe more on the right or on the wrong side. And you have to speak about it and you have to take it as an example. But I think 2011, just remembered everybody, and everybody was alerted that we need to take care of each other, and we need to be maybe change one or two things. Yes, also shape of cars. I think this was well addressed, but also on the behavior on track. And I think afterwards, for sure. I mean, it's Le Mans. It's one of the last adventures, and it is it has some danger in it. I don't want to say it's a dangerous race. That's wrong, but it has certain kind of fascination, a certain kind of danger to it. It's one of the last adventures in motorsport. But also I think over the years we showed afterwards that the racing was very good, and the behavior on track also got better. And I think it's always been different classes, and it has to stay with it. It will not run with just one class. That's not long distance racing, but you need to make sure that you can work together. You can be, like sharing the track and still have your own race inside your class, and still let everybody, leave everybody enough space. I think that's what I think changed over the years. But there was 2011 were two huge impacts, and we were very happy that nobody was major injured.
Did these crashes, or the ones you were involved personally, ever slow you down, or do you have a mechanism or this attitude that say, well, whatever happened, on to the next one?
Well, I had just after, in the beginning of 2012, we did the 12 hours of Sebring, and then Monday after the race, we did prep work for the upcoming Le Mans. There was always a tradition with Audi, and I happened to be in the endurance car when we started the endurance run, and was the first one, and. On that day in the car, and just at the end of a double stint, I had a technical failure and had a huge crash with a R18 at that time. So I had a broken vertebrae, which set me out for almost the rest of the season. So I was out of the car for half a year, with a big recovery and rehab and everything. So for sure, this is a setback, or like a pause, which you use not only to come back or try to get in shape again, but it also did something with me for sure. I mean, it's I think I restructured a bit the way I was training, the way I was handling things, the way I was just being as a professional racing driver. So I think I grew up a bit more and a bit more mature, but it also does change some elements of you. I think you get a bit more sensible or sensitive with when crashes happen, because you know exactly how it feels. And before, at that time I was 31, so you're just starting your 30s, where you have more and more experience, and how can I say, the time where you're completely okay, you just drive, these times are a bit over. So you're getting more mature, and every time when crashes happen, I remember there was a huge one in 2014 in free practice with Loic Duval, and we saw the car, and I was just inside the car, and we were just going out for a quali run, and we saw the huge crash, and the track was red for half an hour, and I saw the car, and I saw the helmet, sticking out, and the door was left, was gone, and I asked to get out of the car, because anyway we knew it's going to be red for a long time, and I went over to the Audi guys and spoke to Dr. Ulrich. Just wanted to see how Loic is. You're getting more sensitive with these kind of crashes. I think it doesn't slow you down inside the car, and I think you still have this mentality that, okay, it can happen to everybody else, not yourself. Even though you were hurt, I think you still have this kind of element, and you cannot get, it shouldn't get to you the way that it slows you down. But like outside of the car, I was a bit more sensitive to these kind of crashes. So I went over, and how he is, wanted to hear, and then I heard he was, he was fine, but for sure was shaking, and he was taken to the hospital. But so far it's okay, and this also relieved you a bit. So, and I went back in the car, and and then quali went on, and you stop thinking it. You stop thinking of it once you're in the car, and you do your job and you're focused. But outside of it, it definitely changes you, and also the way when one or the other driver comes with a question, and how I dealt at the time with my crash, that I think it's and I was always happy to give an advice how it felt for me, or how it what steps or what measures I took, and I'm sure it does something with you.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that's such a personal experience, and I'm sure things you learned from these experiences, at least as I'm concerned, made you even faster, because one does not just simply break the Nürburgring lap record in that manner if you're scared of speed, rather the opposite from what I can see. I still get dizzy watching the onboard from that lap on the Nürburgring. When you watch racing, you get an understanding how a lap should look like. And then you open that YouTube clip from you in the 919 EVO, which is basically the unrestricted ultimate form of the 919 hybrid. And it looks like you're watching a lap in fast forward mode. How was it for you to be in the car doing this absolutely bonkers lap?
No, thank you for saying that. I got a lot of nice compliments or recognitions because of that. And felt ultra quick. It's almost how to describe just the sheer speed, the sheer performance of this car, which is then even more accelerated by the track I was on. I mean, if you do this, if you drive this kind of car in Bahrain, for example, with large runoffs and different race reference points, it's for sure the car will always be quick, and it will be a stunning lap time, and it will be a stunning memory. But on this track, I think it even doubles every speed of every car. The Nordschleife does, because track is a lot smaller, like the actually track width. Then you have basically no runoffs. Then you have in the middle, you go through the woods. So all the offside situation highlights or accelerates the speed. So it was very difficult not to get carried away and to lose focus or to get different or wrong reference points. So there was the true challenge to not get in a speed rush by this sheer performance of the car. Yeah, so I stuck to my plan, but in the end, it was just a absolute crazy memory, and it is highlights, or how can I say it? It's highlights, so it just tops every memory I had in sheer driving pleasure or sheer driving performance of a car. It was just stunning to do, and it was again, it was not for me. It was not a 5-minute job. Just like unload the car and then off we go, and then just quick do lap time and come back. It was hard work adapting the car, the EVO, which was even quicker than the official 919 hybrid car we used for the WC Championship, was a lot quicker. So to adapt this car on this old school, this high-tech car on this old school racetrack, to adapt this to do a proper run, which in the end we did. And I think this fascinated or just the people enjoyed it and still do. And watching this car on this unique racetrack, on this ultimate racetrack. So I think it just it was crazy in ways and in certain times, and it took us like half a year with simulator sessions, with a small test we had with a couple of laps, with some tests and rollouts we did in Weissach to convert the car into this EVO in certain steps. So it was just it took some time, but the result is just amazing, and also the response, the echo we got.
Looking at the clock, we're running out of time, but I want to squeeze in one last question about that Nürburgring app, which for me personally was the most impressive fact, that after 34, 35 years, it took a Porsche to beat another Porsche to crack that time. In a few words, why is it so special for this unbreakable record of Stefan Bellof that it was possible to break it again?
Yeah, the reason it took a Porsche to beat this lap record from a Porsche was simply back in 1983, when Stefan Bellof was on pole for the 1,000 kilometers race of the Nürburgring. It was in a Porsche 956, which at the time was the sports car of the era, was winning Le Mans multiple times, the World Endurance Championship. And I think we can claim that 30 to 35 years later, it was a 919 hybrid, which was the sports car of its era, having exactly the same kind of success and fascination. So and between these times, no one ever tried with these type of cars to tackle the Nordschleife. So we thought at the end of the WC time or era, because we just stopped the 919 project in WC, we thought we have the resources and still the team intact and the car to try and attempt on the Nordschleife, and we took it with big respect. And I can certainly say that Stefan Bellof was one of my childhood heroes. Unfortunately, I never met him in person, because I was just 4.5 years old when he unfortunately died. But I read many books. I spoke with many of his friends or compatriots that worked with him in the time. And so I never wanted to compare myself, and I would never do that. I don't want to tackle the Nordschleife in 956, certainly not. I cannot get to a 611, that's for sure. And that's not the signal we wanted to set. We wanted to show that we can competitively drive the 919 hybrid or 919 EVO on this ultra high tech car. We can drive it on the ultimate track there is, which is the Nordschleife, on a good performance, and we could show what this car is capable of doing. And I think we did that. And with biggest respect of Stefan and his record he set 35 years ago. And I think the biggest compliment I got that day was driving home. I think it was 6 p.m. in the evening, just before I hit home. I got a phone call from the father of Stefan Bellof, unfortunately now he died last year. He was still alive, and he was, I think, 90 or 91 years old back at the time, and he was still very, very agile and still very, big fan of motorsport, big fan of Porsche. And we had quite a good relation, and we phoned from time to time, and he was following our WEC races and cheering us on. But in fact, so in that day, I got a call from him, and he said two things. He said, first of all, I'm very, very happy to hear your voice, that everything went well, and that you're in one piece and everything's fine. And the second thing he said was, congrats on that lap time, and he just watched it, and he said Stefan would be proud. And I said, well, I was close to tears. I said, wow, I mean, to hear that from you. And I told him as well, from my side, I was never the record of Stefan will live forever, and this fascination of his time and his accomplishments, and in no way I wanted to compare myself to him. And he said, no, that's very nice that I say that, and it's for him, it's clear that this is a big achievement we did, and he wanted to really honor that. So it was like a 5-minute phone call, but very emotional, and that was probably the biggest compliment and the biggest nod we could get on that day. Yeah, and I'm happy to speak about it. And yeah, that's the kind of man his father was.
And I think this shows how much of a family and, a community racing, and Porsche especially, really is. Timo, thank you so much for your time, for being there. For me, if it was up to me, I would totally be up for a challenge, 24 hours of podcast with Timo Bernhard. But unfortunately, as world's busiest retiree, you have other things on your schedule right now. And I hope maybe at some other point we get to continue this in another episode at another time. But thank you for these very personal impressions and insights on your racing career, and on all of these very moments that we all shared in some way, but never, at least me personally, never got to, get a look so close in all of these projects of yours. And yeah, I one more time I have to say thank you, Timo, and I hope you're on the show one more time in the future, and for you and your family and for your personal projects in the future. I wish you all the best. We all can't wait to see and hear more of you. So stay healthy and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you very much, and always happy if I get an invitation, and always again. So maybe in a couple of years we can, we can do that again, and maybe with a bit more insights, or maybe a bit fresh or new memories that we will have, hopefully in the next coming years. So all the best, Simon. Thank you, and all the best to everybody out there, and enjoy listening to us. All the best. Bye bye.
Bye bye.